think at this point it's actually kind of cliche to say that the monster we know is there but cannot see is scarier than the monster that we actually can see. Hello comments, happy October 1st. Today we're going through the first story in my H.P. Lovecraft collection, The Beast in the Cave. I've heard this idea that it's actually scarier to just see glimpses of the monster and just have a general idea about it, attributed to old movies with bad special effects. They knew the monsters didn't look good, and it was also expensive to show, so they would only really show you the monster at the end of the movie, at kind of the height and the climax with a lot of build-up, so you're already kind of very emotionally invested, but most of the journey, most of the power was really in that build-up. Even Jaws was famous for showing you scenes from the shark's perspective, leaving you to imagine just how awful the shark really was. And it probably was worse in your imagination than actually seeing film of the shark. But I think there is a deeper truth to the idea that we are more afraid of the thing we only see hints and glimpses of. And I think this is why many people are afraid of the dark. As a child, I was very afraid of the dark, taking the trash out on a dark night. Even sometimes when I was with other people, I was scared to walk by the cemetery at night. But I was never scared blindfolded playing Marco Polo with my friends, or walking by the cemetery in the day. I think it's because we see in the dark just not very well. We see shadows, we have glimpses of what could be, and our imagination fills in the blanks. Blindfolded, or in silence, we are not afraid, because there is no glimpse of anything to fear. So when I was a kid, I was afraid of staring into the mirror as I brushed my teeth, because I had kind of this mental image, a mental glimpse of a vampire that could sneak up behind me while I thought I could see everything clearly in the mirror. And it really was created by this idea, not that I couldn't see anything, obviously I could see very well, but that I could see just enough to fool myself into thinking I was safe when I wasn't. H.P. Lovecraft's The Beast in the Cave at first seems kind of unremarkable. A man is scared in a cave, separated from the tour, and completely lost with his torch extinguished, while he's left contemplating the very real possibility that he will die there alone in the dark. But he hears a beast appear, and so we have the title, no surprises. It doesn't sound human, it's not the tour guide. He hears it sometimes on four legs as it approaches, so he stumbles in the dark for some rocks on the ground and he fights the beast back. He's successful and he's overjoyed as he hears the tour guide approach with a light, who had come back, realizing that he was lost, and then he heard the commotion. But this is when the story takes an interesting turn. I don't think I've ever seen anywhere else, at least not with the dark specifically. The man runs to the guide, and now, with the newfound bravery of companionship and light, he returns to the beast as it lies dying on the ground. The man can see it now, a large white ape with eyes that are completely dark and without pupils. The creature makes dying sounds that reveal its true nature, that it is a man. And I think this is the real moment. This is the climax of the story. This is when the real horror is. And I think this moment is supposed to have a kind of twofold horror. First, the man is supposed to be horrified that someone was destroyed by the harsh environment of the cave. Destroyed at this person. Lovecraft even describes the man as an uncanny sight. And I can't help but think of the phrase that would be coined decades after this story, the uncanny valley, which describes the uncomfortable zone when something looks too human to be cute and not human enough to look familiar. Many people feel that there is something worse about a person turned into a beast or monster than something that simply always was a beast or monster. And perhaps this is connected to the next part. It makes us think that we too could be turned into monsters, and that's really unsettling. When the man finds out it was another man he had just killed, he no longer feels fear, but rather wonder, awe, and compassion for the man he had just killed. A man, our narrator, went into the dark and thought he was confronted with a monster, and he became a murderer. He feels compassion for the man he just killed, and I must imagine that he feels guilt. I think this is a really underappreciated aspect of horror of the dark. It's not just that we might see just enough to not see the danger that is there. And it's also not just that the monster we imagine is worse than what we actually see, the monster we do see. It's that our actions might become monstrous in the light. That with a little bit of information, we might take what seems like a reasonable decision only to discover that what we did was awful. So, my new words for the story are obtrude, which means impose or intrude, dale, which is just another word for valley. It's the suffix on a lot of town names, so I always think of like Dimsdale from the Fairly Odd Parents. Grotto, which is a word I kind of heard a lot but never bothered to look up. It means a small cave. Effulgence, which is the state of being very bright. And rushlight. Apparently rush is a kind of plant, so a rushlight is a kind of candle made from the rush plant. For October, we're talking about a lot of other horror stories, including more by H.P. Lovecraft. So if you like this story, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more, or you can click over here and we can talk about mouse. And remember, good night, good day, good potato.